sales psychology to sell out programs even in a pandemic. So we're going to talk about a few different things today. I'm going to give you a 10-step structure to selling out your programs using sales psychology and using business strategy. I'm also going to be talking to you about the common misconceptions around selling right now. We're going to talk through some of the really common limiting beliefs that are available at the moment around money, around selling in a pandemic. And then we're going to be talking about how to price your offers in the right way, pricing psychology. And then also we're going to be talking about manifestation, and I'm going to give you the science behind manifestation. And often manifestation is talked about from a really spiritual perspective, but today I'm going to be breaking it down for you in a really psychological way, telling you the actual facts, the brain science behind how manifestation works and what you need to do to tap into it. So stick with me till the end so that you can learn all about how to manifest whatever it is that you want using psychology. So let's crack on. So let's kick off with the 10 steps about selling out your offers during a pandemic. So this one came up because of our 6-figure mastermind, and we were talking about manifestation, and I just wanted to like really break it down as to like how I see manifestation, because I see it from a very practical perspective. Love all things psychology. Yeah, me too, Michelle. So here are my 10 steps to sell out your offers during a pandemic. And I know they work because I use them myself. In fact, before I go into this, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about who I am. So if we're meeting for the first time here, I'm just going to give you the lowdown of why you should listen to me, what I know about anything. So my name's Rosie Peacock. I have a master's in coaching psychology and positive psychology. I've got over 12 years experience in sales, 6 years experience in working online. My mastermind that I launched in February made 24K in sales. I sold out 25 spots on my program, which I launched last month during a pandemic. I've coached hundreds of business owners to their success. And one of my clients this week sold 15 spots on her own program during the pandemic. So I know what I'm talking about, guys. It's time to listen up and listen to these steps, which not only work for me, they don't only work for me, but they can work for you too, because they work for my clients. And I have been teaching them in such a way that I can really break it down for you into these 10 steps. So let's begin here. First of all, the first thing you need to do to start selling your offers during a pandemic is to remove any limiting beliefs you have around selling right now. If you've got any limitations in your mind around selling things, you're going to have that block there, and you're not going to be pushing your offers in the way that feels right. You're going to be hiding yourself. You're going to be playing small. So you really need to examine those stories. And luckily for you, that's something that we're going to cover today. I'm going to cover this all with you. So we're going to remove the limiting beliefs around selling. We're going to find where there's false evidence, and then we're going to instill new positive beliefs around sales. So you might have some beliefs around sales at the moment. Let me know how you feel about selling. Let me know in the comments below. How do you feel about selling? Does sales feel natural to you? Do you enjoy selling? Does the word sales do something weird to you? How do you feel around sales? So when it comes to sales beliefs, we are just going to unpick some of the problematic stories, and then we're going to talk about instilling new positive beliefs around sales. We're going to cover, so number 3 is know exactly who you're serving. So this is nailing your niche, knowing your ideal client, being super, super clear on who you're creating the offer for. Then number 4 is to create and nurture them in your community. Maybe you already have a community, so it's about making sure that those people you want to serve are coming into the community, and then you're nurturing them through free, relevant content. Then number 5, in that process where you're building relationships and nurturing them, you then need to know what problems they are willing to pay to solve. So at this point, you're doing market research. And don't market research with other entrepreneurs. Market research is done best when it's with your market. So people in your community, either DM them or ask them in posts in your community what problems they are willing to pay to solve. Look what they're spending their money on. Look at what the problems are with their business. And you might want to start giving away free audits for this. So I have a client who is giving away free website audits because she designs websites. So there are a few different ways that you can give away a way of a piece of free content, but it also gives you the ability to do that market research and to start to know what problems people are willing to pay to solve. Also, when you set up your community, if you're using Facebook groups to create community, because they're such a fantastic space, allowing those people to tell you what they want when they come into the group. So you know that you get 3 questions you can ask people as they come into your group. This is incredible space for market research because you can be getting their emails, you can be getting their information around what their challenges are in their business. You can find out why they're coming to your community, and you can start to really get an idea about whether they're prepared to work with you or how you can support them in other ways. From that, you can create content directly for them that really, really speaks to them and is super on point for what they want. And also, if they've then given you an email address, you can follow that up with not only in the group, but with emails as well, giving them value through email marketing too, if that's a stage that you're at in your business. If not, you can just be popping them aside, keeping them somewhere safe, so that when it comes to the time when you're setting up emails, you can then use your email marketing for that. So you're creating and nurturing your community, and the whole time that you're doing that, your ear is on the pulse to figure out what problems they're willing to pay to solve and how much they're willing to pay to solve them and how rapidly they want them solved, and so that you can create solutions focused packages. And that really is the key here. The absolute crux to selling out your offers during a pandemic is you're not just selling something that you know for the sake of it. So for example, I think there's a lot of mindset coaches in here. People don't really necessarily know that they need to have mindset coaching necessarily, unless you make sure it solves a direct problem. So just to say, it's a mindset coaching program, 6 weeks of mindset coaching, 6 calls, 6 group calls, 6 one-to-one calls. What's the transition that you come out of the end of it feeling like you really, really know what's coming at the end of it? So that the transformation that comes out needs to be mega tangible. So let's say for a mindset coach, this 6-week program is simply about creating confidence. So here's the important part. We know who we're serving. Let's go with for female entrepreneurs because we're in here. Female entrepreneurs, female coaches, let's get really specific, female coaches. And so the mindset problems that a female coach at different stages in their business would have are going to be different. So knowing those pain points for those ideal clients are going to be different. So let's think, okay, I want to be charging a £500 package. So if you want to be charging a £500 package, you're going for a different ideal client than if you want to be charging a £1,500 package. Now, you might serve that same client again and again and again. And this is something we'll talk about later in today about how you retain those clients. But ultimately, when you are creating the package, it's got to solve their exact problem at a price they are willing to pay at that point in their journey. So let's say you are wanting to earn £500 per client, and you know that the problem that most of these female coaches are experiencing is they're simply not getting visible enough. They're not going on live enough. They're not collaborating with enough people. They're not getting themselves out there enough. So nobody's really seeing what their work is. Okay, so in that case, a 6-week tangible mindset course around going from scared of getting out in public to complete and total online visibility. And what's the end goal they want? They want more clients ultimately. So if you can prove to them that by getting visible online, they're going to get more clients, which is that end result that they want, they've got this super tangible process by which your mindset coaching is now fixed within some very, very tangible results. And you've broken down into 6 weeks the exact thing that they want to solve, which is their confidence issues and needing the accountability and support with that. It's so much easier to sell that than just a generic program. So the next part here is to create an irresistible offer. So by now you know what the irresistible offer is, because you know what problems these clients are willing to pay to solve. So you need to do this groundwork and this market research before you're able to create the irresistible offer. And that's what I mean by that. It's knowing what transformation they want, and the irresistible offer is packaging it to them in a way that is exactly as they need it to be. If you're working with busy mompreneurs, then they probably don't need a mega intense course, because they actually need a bit more time to implement. If you're working with people who are just starting their online business and they're busy during, they're really time affluent during this COVID time, you might want to be putting on a more intense program so that they can really whoosh through and get fast results. So thinking about how your offer can be irresistible, and that means like really thinking with that person in mind with every single thing that you create as part of the offer. Now, the next part here is to set the correct price. So each person, as I said, has at a different stage in their journey will have a different amount of income that they're willing to invest in themselves. I know a lot of coaches say, charge your worth, but I think that that's absolutely ridiculous, okay? So your worth is priceless. Innately, your worth as a human individual was as high when you're born as it is now, and as it will be when you die. You are the most worthy version of yourself that you will and can ever be. You are enough. You are worthy. Charging your worth is impossible because it's priceless. You can't put a price on how worthy you are. Once you've tapped into that space and that energy, you realize that price is an agreement between this person wanting this thing and this person being able to provide this thing. And it's an agreement in the middle that is fair for that trade-off. The more someone invests, the more invested they are. But people don't have a lot to invest early in their journeys often, unless, for example, you're working around spirituality. And somebody might be a doctor and earning good money, but they want to work spiritually. At that stage, it's slightly different. Whereas if you're working with entrepreneurs, you can be pretty certain that the stage in their journey they are will reflect that the finances they have available to invest in your offers. So it's about choosing the right client that you want and reverse engineering the prices based also on your income goals. So say you want to be hitting 10K months. If you want to be hitting 10K months and you're not already there, you need to think about your prices, about how close it's going to get you to that goal. It's no good setting a price for a program at £200 and only selling that month if you want to hit 10K when you've got a following of 100 people, because you're not going to hit 10K. What you need to do is to start thinking about other ways that you can create either longer packages, add more value in, put it closer up in the hierarchy of service, something I'm going to talk to you all about later. I love your mentality on value. Thank you, Holly. So it's more throwaway phrase now. Yeah. And I think like in terms of charging your worth, it also makes people think that your worth is in some way attached to your prices, like somebody's less worthwhile. And there is, to some degree, price is perception. So how somebody perceives you is reflected by what you do with your prices. So if your pricing is like a budget price, people will perceive your service as a budget service. They'll think they'll get less for their money, or you're showing less experience and expertise. Now, if you go way up, people might see you as like way out of their league, and then they also won't buy with you. So we'll talk about this later. I've got a slide all about pricing psychology and the common pricing mistakes I see people make. So the next part after that is, once you've set the correct prices and an irresistible offer, you know your sales funnel strategy. So this isn't just an isolated sale. The reason that sales psychology works so beautifully is because it builds upon a relationship with a client and it takes them on a full journey. So we're going to talk about that a little bit today too. And then number 9 is show up and get visible. When you have something that you're launching and you're selling, beforehand, during and after, you need to show up and you need to get visible. Going on Facebook Live, Instagram Live is the top way to get people's eyes on you and on your business and on your trainings. Other video ways like using YouTube, using IGTV, showing up in other people's groups, doing collaborations with other people, thinking about how you can be as expansive as possible so that the maximum amount of people can hear your message. The more people you have listening to you and learning from you, the more likely it is that you are eventually then going to convert those people. So the larger quantity of people you can convert, the larger amount of conversions you're going to get. It's simple maths, okay? So if you're talking to 100 people, you might convert 50 of them. If you're talking to 1,000 people, you might convert 500. So it's about getting yourself out there as much as you can so that you can really, really, really start getting people interested in learning from you, and then being consistent with it. So don't just show up kind of during your launch and then disappear and don't exist anymore. So that's my 10 steps to selling out an offer during a pandemic. I literally did them this month with my Prepare to Pivot, which I think some of you are all in there, which is really great. So this is the exact strategy that I used, the sales psychology that I used in Prepare to Pivot, that I've just launched and sold out all of the places of. So I know that it works. So here's what we're going to cover. We're going to break it down and we're going to go into a little bit more detail over the next 20 minutes or so around phony pandemic money stories, selling being serving, so it's reframing those stories, common pricing mistakes, necessary investments, hierarchy of service. Then we're going to talk about your relationship with selling, buyer psychology 101, the science of manifestation, and money-making actions. So I've already told you who I am, but that's me again, just to recap. Put the slide in the wrong place. So phony pandemic money stories. Let me know if, yes, P2P tribe, let me know if anyone has heard any of these at the moment. So no one is buying. People don't have any money right now. Everyone's giving away free stuff and I can't compete. It's bad taste to sell and make money during a crisis. Making money means taking from others, and people are only buying low ticket offers right now. So there is so much evidence out there being bombarded with us at the moment, which is negative around how business is going. But a lot of that really mostly applies to offline businesses, and online businesses are booming. And I can say that from my group of friends, from the women that I'm in a mastermind with, from the women that I work with as very high level coaches, from the women who I have the pleasure of calling my friends, people are still buying right now. People are very much still buying. Okay. And I just want you to have a think about these stories. If any of these resonate with you or they feel true for you, it's time to go away and journal about any evidence you can find to the contrary. So if you can find somebody else doing that thing that you want to do, it's evidence that it's possible. If you can find somebody else buying something that you want to sell, there's evidence that there's a market out there for it. If you can find anybody else as an inspiration, it takes you away from this kind of mode of comparisonitis, and it uses it as a reframe to be inspired by them. So have a look. Have you bought anything during this pandemic? If so, that's evidence that you're still buying. If people don't have any money right now, have a look in your bank account. Have you got any money right now? So some people who are furloughed are still getting all of their normal wage, and they have much less money that they're spending they're spending out in public. So they're not going out for meals, they're not buying fancy dresses, they're not going out for a Starbucks every morning, they're not going out and spending all of these money in different places, but they're still getting their same income and they're just sat at home letting it build up. So some people who are wanting to leave their corporate jobs have loads of time, loads of extra money. So when we think, oh, nobody has any money right now, I think those are lies invented by early stage entrepreneurs who are feeling that they don't have any money. But a lot of people do still have a lot of money, and some people have more than they had before. So let's not get ourselves lost in this idea. Everyone is giving away free stuff, but I'm going to talk to you about how free stuff is part of a sales strategy and not an isolated thing. So don't think, oh, everyone's bombarded with free stuff, so no one will buy mine. It's part of a sales strategy. So yes, give away some things for free, but I'll tell you about how to do that within a sales funnel that makes sense. It's bad taste to sell and make money during a crisis. Well, that's just absolute BS, because if what you're selling is a service that will change people's lives, and I know most of you it is, so to not deliver that service and to sell it during this time is actually offering a massive disservice. People need you now more than ever. It's bad taste to not sell when people need you. Making money means taking from others, which again, it isn't true. I'll talk to you about that in the next slide. And people are only buying low ticket offers right now. Again, not true. I've also sold one-to-one. There are people buying high ticket. There are people buying low ticket. People are in very much very different financial circumstances, and you can't make giant assumptions about these things. So if you had any of those limiting beliefs, it's time to identify them and to get your journal out and to start rewriting them, to notice when they're coming up, to notice when that scarcity mindset is coming up around selling and around serving, and to give yourself a positive story. So I'm going to tell you now, here is my positive money mantra. Selling is serving. I set it as an alarm on my phone, and it comes up a couple of times a day, and it just reminds me selling is serving, so that I just remind myself to step into that role of service again, to be of service to people. Because if I'm not selling things to them, then what I can give to them isn't being delivered. Amy says yes, showing up in service. Perfect. It's so important to remember, because people who have negative comments about money are loud, and the positive ones don't necessarily shout it out. That is so true. Okay, so if you have a service-based business that you know makes a positive impact on the people that you work with, then you're doing them a disservice by not selling it to them in a way that solves their problems. You literally have the solution to their problem, package it up and sell it to them in a way they can afford, that they will buy from you right now. Imagine if I had a service that would solve one of your problems, but I created it and I just never told you about it and just let you struggle along without my help. How would you feel about that? Would you be like, yeah, great one, Rosie? Or would you be like, why would you do that when you have all of that knowledge? Imagine that I have a problem that I know how to solve of yours, but you are my ideal client. I really want to work with you, and I know that you earn £2,000 a month, but my service, I've just whacked it right up, it's 10k. Then in that sense, so if I'm charging you £10,000, and yes, sometimes people can access extra money and get themselves, they can find loans, or people do have savings, but it's very important to be aware, if you want to sell things out easy, you've got to make no-brainer offers and then funnel them up to higher offers as well. So it's not just about like, this is the one thing I offer and it's this big whack service. And anyone that I work with has a different product suite of different offers which serve our ideal client on different journeys. So like, your ideal client is not the same for every offer that you have. They'll be at different stages in their life cycle from each moment that they are working with you. So you can split that journey, that transformation, into steps. Okay, so if you want more information on how to create a product suite, come on over to my Soulful Success Society, because Laurie came over and did an incredible masterclass on mapping out your product suite, and she made it so super clear. So come and check it out after this. I have put a link to the Soulful Success Society up in the description here. Right, next one. So if you don't sell it, then it won't serve them. So it's limiting the amount of positive impact that you're destined to make in the world by you sitting on these services that you know are life-changing for people. So here are these common pricing mistakes that I have been telling you about, and I just want to go into each of them in a little bit more detail. Oh, my slipper came off. Okay, so the first one, I undercharge and I never hit my income goal. So first of all, have an income goal that is in mind before you are designing any service. And this is what I'm going to tell you about with manifestation. Manifestation isn't, to me, some magic that just happens. It's you being aware of everything that goes on, tapping into your cognitive bias and reverse engineering everything that you want in life so that it happens, taking the aligned action as much as putting out the aligned thought and cognitive shifts that you need. So £10,000, let's say you want to earn £10,000, and I'm going to use May as an example just so you've got a whole month. If you want to charge people, so let's say you've got a service and your service is £150, and that £150 service, you want to make 10k. So you get your calculator out and you put 10k in there, and then you do 10k divided by 150, and then you find out how many of that thing you need to sell. If it sounds like too many for your current audience, you need to shift your offering and increase your pricing, or so offer more value and make a bigger package, but also check that the people in your community are willing to pay for that. Or it might mean putting out a big offer, such as some one-to-ones, and then a smaller offer, which is like a group program. So you're looking at how you're reverse engineering, and you're putting the exact strategy in place. So if you undercharge, you'll never hit your income goal because you're not being consciously aware about how to hit it. So that's part of the psychology of it. It's partly strategy, it's partly psychology with all of these things. And the strategy is, once you know how many spots you're selling, you then need to create the exact strategy around who those people are, how you track your leads, how you're getting those people to convert with you. So another next common pricing mistake I see is I've raised my prices too much too fast, and now I have imposter syndrome. So who's ever done this? They've gone from like charging like 40 quid an hour or something, and then all of a sudden they've whacked up their prices to like £300 or £400, and then suddenly they just want to shrink behind their screen and they don't want to show up anymore. Or when it comes to like pitching at the end of a live, they just kind of go, and if you want to work with me, get in touch. And they don't say the prices because they're super scared about it, and they wonder if anyone will ever pay them. So as you can see by the amount of detail, I completely know this one because I went through this last year. So I raised my prices by 50 times last year. Not as in I raised them 50 times over, but I multiplied my pricing by 50 times. And during that huge quantum leap, I had a big case of imposter syndrome initially. And the thing is, you need to raise your prices in a way that feels in alignment with you and in alignment with your ideal client. So if you're pitching a new ideal client, is a different type, they're at a different stage in their journey, you need to know that your service is the exact value to the amount that they need. And something that helps me with this is to break down the component parts of what you're offering and to see what the individual value of each component would be. That helps you make sense of the overall price. So let's say the group coaching calls alone would be worth $2,000 because that's how much it costs to have group calls with you. And then all the workbooks would be worth $500. And then on top of that, the bonus extras with guest experts would be worth another $1,000. And then on top of that, any one-to-one additional stuff is worth another $2,000. But you're packaging all of that value up and you're selling it for $1,500. Then it's a really, really freaking good deal. And it feels like a good deal for you. So the reason that you get imposter syndrome is because you no longer believe that your worth is worth the value that's out there. I'm just going to remind you to earlier in this masterclass when I said your worth is innate. It's from birth. You were born as worthy as you'll ever be, and you could price yourself at any given price point and your worth would not change. So noticing if you've got imposter syndrome, start breaking down the value of what people get and start really understanding what transformations you're giving to people. Start getting client feedback, and if you want to, put in a few jumps in your journey to work your way up to it. Make some smaller programs, make easy to sell programs if you want to. It's about you feeling confident. If you're confident in what you're selling and you're confident in your pricing, it will sell like hotcakes. It's easy to sell something that you fully believe in. So try doing it in short incremental steps. So if you feel really comfy with where you're at and you haven't sold it out, you don't necessarily need to raise your prices unless you know those prices are not getting you anywhere near your income goal. In that case, you do need to have a little look, and I'll talk to you in a second about your hierarchy of different things that you can offer and how you can adjust those prices. So I overcharge and no one buys my program or package. So this isn't about you not feeling it, it's about them not feeling it. So remember, price is a relationship between an agreement that you have and an agreement that a client has. If the client doesn't value your results because you haven't told them what the transformation is in enough clarity for them to put that financial value on it, then the chances are nobody's going to buy it. So let's say you are pitching a program. I'm trying to think of an example. Okay, so you're pitching a program and you've put everything but the kitchen sink in it. So it's a one-to-one program, it's 90 days, and you have put every single thing you know about mindset work into it, everything that you could possibly know. So it's like transform your mindset, be the most confident, incredible version of you, and it's $3,000, because that's me charging my worth. You know how I feel about that now. So you see why then people would not buy that program. Well, why? Because people want to feel confident. I don't understand. Well, which people? Which people are you targeting? You look at the people in your group and you realize that most of them are stay-at-home mums with no flexible income, and you're trying to charge them $3,000 to feel more confident with no return on investment. Can you start to see why that would be problematic, and why that would be a pricing mistake? It doesn't mean you need to value yourself less. It means you need to create offers that are lower down the scale if those really are your dream clients, or you need to assess who your dream client is. If they can't afford to work with you, your dream client, let me tell you, can always afford to work with you. Your ideal client can always afford to, or will make a way to afford to work with you. So if they can't, they are not your ideal client. You need to shift who you are targeting so that it's the right place, the right program, the right price. It's not that it's the wrong it's not that your program's necessarily the right wrong package, but it's the wrong package for them and their budget. Doesn't mean that someone else won't buy it, but also just be really careful of those tangible results. Okay, so pricing being inconsistent is something that we're really going to talk about in a second. So I'm just going to leave that one there, but basically we'll cover that. I'm scared to raise your prices because you're worried people will judge you or that they won't pay it. Well, there's one way to try that. Do it. And then once you've done it, if you realize that people aren't paying it, then you have that as your full price, and you can still offer flash offers of that price anyway, but then they still feel like they're getting a bargain or a discount, even if you're just returning back to your original pricing, because you say it's usually this value, and that's why you're feeling into this new place of this new value. If you are providing copywriting at £500, you really need to be looking at people who are like six figures in their well-being business, or people who have larger businesses, because ultimately, like dropping £500 on captions, on copywriting captions and things like that, is probably fairly low in the priorities of startups and of people who are just starting to scale. Most people invest initially in some coaching, perhaps in some branding and some graphic design, get a logo done, get their website put together, and it takes a bit further down their journey until they're ready to outsource copywriting, unless that's something that they're really, really uncomfortable with. But even at that point, if you want to be pitching at a premium copywriting price for captions and things like that, you need to be starting to reach out to people who are at that much higher level. Undercharge or give everything away for free. So if you're early and you're starting out in your business, chances are you give away a lot for free because you're still generating testimonials. There's no harm in doing that, but at some point you really need to start making some money so it's not a hobby and it's a business. So if you are giving away things for free, you've got to understand the sales funnel that's part of, and where you're trying to get them into with that free nurturing content. If you undercharge for your services, again, reminding you, price is perception. So how people perceive your price is how they perceive you, and it's how they perceive the quality of your service. So if it's a pitched really, really beautifully service, and then it just has a really budget price, people will wonder why it's so cheap. And so then you kind of need to either explain why it's so cheap, or you need to, raise the prices up so that it matches with the quality of the service. So you don't want people to undervalue your service and to not commit to it. Okay, let me see. If your dream client earns 250k per year, how do you know where to find them? Okay, so in terms of finding somebody who's really successful in their business, I would probably start to search hashtag 6-figure business owner on Instagram, start following those people, start following people who are in high level masterminds and follow all of the people in the mastermind with them, and then starting to like and comment on their photos and interact with them. I would also follow people who have 6-figure business owner, 7-figure business owner, 6-figure coach, anything like that, where people are talking about how much they're earning. Starting to go into Facebook groups where people are looking into groups for scaling their business, looking for people who are also, you might want to, it depends what your service is. So I know there's some VAs who set up a group for people looking for VAs so that people come to them rather than you having to go to outreach. So it completely depends. Like if you're part of like some groups and where there's people who are more successful than others, also you could start a friend referring basis. So it depends also what you're offering and whether what you're offering is something that those people will need. So then your free content is really, really valuable for them, because it's great to target people who are further on in their business, but their needs and desires at that point have completely shifted. They need a lot of very different things than somebody early on in their business. So let's have a quick look here. This is what people are spending money on. It's the needs of business rather than just nice to haves. So some things that are necessary, and the priorities have shifted right now. So the priorities at this time, the most important thing to people is knowing that they can make money. So if you can sell them a service that will give them a return on investment, that is the pinnacle of what people are looking for. Now, if you are targeting a very, very high level of business owner, time and energy is more important than money, because money is coming in really easily, but also time and energy allows them to make more money. So it's not just creating time and energy, it's creating time and energy so that they can better serve their clients, do better at what they do, and ultimately make more money. But you're not teaching them how to make money, but you're teaching them in some ways. So letting me see down here, I'm just having a look in this comments thread and just seeing how many of you guys have a service where you're selling someone where they can make some form of return on investment. How many of you are selling a service which is about health? So again, people have a lot more time on their hands. They're still investing in weight loss. In fact, a lot of people want to come out of quarantine feeling like they've got a whole new body, that they feel like they've really invested their time well. They can't go out and eat out or go to pubs. They still could go out and exercise. So people investing from weight loss at home, immunity boosting stuff. So obviously that's a huge thing right now. Things around well-being, things around feeling good. But feeling good by itself isn't tangible enough. You need to know what the end result is. So I know people say, I want to make more money so that I'll feel good, but they need to know, because feel good feels like the kind of intangible end result. So you need to say how you're going to make them feel good. So I can teach you the steps of meditation so you can be calm and feel really, really present. And then that will reduce the amount of stress you have so you can be better at your job and ultimately make more money. So if you can always relate it back to them making more money, it does actually help. I'm not going to lie to you. So money, health, love, sex and relationships is another one that people are still investing in. So people's pain points here have shifted. Instead of like dating and thinking about, you know, reaching out to new relationships, a lot of people are looking at, they're stuck at home with their partners, tension is higher than normal, they want to feel comfortable in their communication, they maybe are starting to feel a bit of frustration with each other. So things around communication there would be quite vital. But again, things that you can charge money for, the highest levels of money for is around money. The next stage is around health. The next stage is around love. And then the next stage is around amusement. And that's usually the order of hierarchy that they go in. If you can manage to make an offer which ticks all 4 boxes, and it might be something you already offer, but it's changing the messaging around it, people are much more likely to buy it. Yes, Michelle, exactly. Financial return is all about that return on investment. So yes, Terry says there's definitely a return on mental health. So more people are caring about mental health and well-being in a completely different way. But ultimately, are people going to pay the same amount to learn how to make $5,000 a month, or are they as they would pay to learn how to feel well and to have the tools to cope with anxiety. No, ultimately they're not things that you can pitch at the same price for an obvious reason, because one of them is going to generate you more money, which makes back the large investment, and the other one isn't, unless you tell them how learning to meditate and having no anxiety is going to have a bigger return on investment in terms of their life, how their life is, and essentially if they're a business owner, how they can make more money too. Okay, so let's talk here, hierarchy of service. Again, Laurie was in my group, the Soulful Success Society, earlier, and she literally did a whole half an hour's training on this. So if you are interested, go and follow it over in there, and she talks to you all about the full product suite that you can have. If you're interested in putting out free content, that's a great way to bring people into your zone where people can see you for the first time, learn from you, and want to follow you, and they can be part of your community. So free content might be your social media posts, but make sure they're highly valuable. If they're just promoting yourself, that doesn't give them any value. So remember, it's a hierarchy of service, bearing in mind, how can I be of service, of the best service? I wake up every day, and before I meditate every morning, I ask, how can I best be of service today? And it guides every single thing that I do in my business, every single choice that I make, so that everything feels in alignment. And then it's easy to sell. I don't just do it just as a fluffy, like, I want to love my life. Like, that's great, but it also helps me make a shit ton more money. Excuse the language if you've got kiddies at home. I keep forgetting that people have loads of kids at home with them at the moment, but it helps you make so much more money because you ultimately really, really believe that it's a place of service that you're coming from here. So social media posts, stories, emails, blog posts, podcasts, before ever sending one out, check, how is this of service? What are the key takeaways someone will get from this? How is this going to transform someone's life? Because if your free content is transforming lives, that way the paid stuff people can't wait to get their hands on. When we launch something, we give away a slightly extended free service. So something which will generate a bit of a buzz in our groups, and it allows us to create a real community vibe. So it might be a 5-day mini course, or it might be a challenge, a 3-day challenge, or something like that. So using a free content as part of a launch strategy brings people into your funnel, and it allows people to really get a flavor for what working with you is like, and then you can give them the offers later down in the funnel. So if you're launching, you then might want to launch something more expensive, like your kind of workshops, group coaching section, so your mid-range or your high ticket one-to-one coaching offers. So Biopsychology 101, here are just like my top tips about biopsychology, and then I promise we will get straight onto the science of manifestation. So just a few last bits on sales psychology. The numbers need to make sense in relation to your other services. So if up here you are charging £2,000 a month to work with you, it doesn't make any sense for your group coaching program to be worth the same amount. The more increased individualized support someone gets from you is a greater investment from the client, and the less individualized support someone gets from you, the more time and energy the client has to spend figuring things out on their own. Okay, so make sure that your finances make sense. If this is free, then this might be your low ticket offerings are under 100, and they're short mini courses and things like that. And then from here to here, like, it would make sense for you to have group programs, and that might be something under 1,000. And then to work with you one-to-one might be 2,000, and that makes sense. And then you've got like this ultimate pinnacle retreat thing here worth £4,000 or something like that. So like having a check up at each of the things you offer, do they make sense? The more that somebody gets one-to-one of you, the more the price is. The less somebody gets of one-to-one to you, so pre-recorded stuff and ebooks and stuff like that, resources you can have as passive income, obviously bring the price right down. And that's a really good way to find people at the start of your marketing funnel if people aren't investing those high tickets to work with you right now. It should be relevant to your ideal client's budget and income. So if you realize that everyone in your group has a certain budget or income, you might want to shift to doing more pre-recorded stuff rather than as much of the kind of high intensity one-to-one stuff, because you get to trial and error this, right? So if you launch something high ticket and it doesn't sell as well as you want, then try the next time doing something low ticket. And I always advise this within my sales strategy: follow a high ticket offer by a low ticket, by a high ticket, by a low ticket, or something mid-range. So it might be like low ticket, mid-range, low ticket, high, low ticket, so that at any point you're getting more and more opportunities for people to work with you. Because having a look at the at one of these points lower down, once people work with you once, they are more likely to work with you again. So it's down here. If people buy with you once, they are more likely to invest again. That's why tripwires work. It's why these low-end offerings work, because they're already interested in working with you. So freebies do build know, like, and trust. The more on video and the more live it is, the more it builds know, like, and trust. And the more somebody gets a tangible result from your freebie, the more know, like, and trust it builds. So clients investing money means them feeling invested in the result. The more they invest, the more invested they feel. So if you're wanting to do that real high touch work, you're wanting to work with people who are investing more money and they're interested in investing for more transformation. If people buy from you once, again, they are more likely to invest in working with you again, which is why it's so important to have a funnel. So once you're getting somebody in, let's say you're offering a group program, what's next? How do they progress into working with you? What's your client retention strategy? Okay, so then the next thing is to undersell and over deliver, especially the first time you sell something. Some people advise doing beta rounds, and I disagree with that. But like, I would say if you're doing something for the first time, slightly undercharge so that you can sell it with absolute ease and over deliver on the service. So you get amazing testimonials, amazing results, amazing feedback. Those people will want to continue to work with you in whatever format. So you need to have an offer lined up to funnel them into, and you've over delivered in such a big way. So people are going to be excited to continue to work with you. Then the next thing is that people buy because they resonate with you and they relate to you, not because of their demographic. Okay, so it's not because like, oh, I'm a woman and I'm 28 and I live in the UK, so I'm only going to have a coach who's a woman who's 28 in the UK. That's not how it works. But what might work is to say, I'm really interested in somebody who likes to read Hay House books, who puts crystals in their baths, who thinks that it's a really good idea to have a glass of champagne to celebrate what they've put out into the world. You know, there's certain things that I say that's part of my kind of life ethos that people will resonate just with me around. And it's much easier to market to people around that than it is to market to people around their demographic. And I see lots of people putting out great big long lists. This is for teachers and doctors and lawyers and this and that. It's like, what do they have in common? It just seems like you're making something for everyone. It's like, you really need to find people who resonate with you. So it's not really for doctors, lawyers, blah, blah, blah. It's for people who want to create this change in their life and believe in this key core value and do it with this strategy that you can prove works. So let me tell you now, very last bit is about the science of manifestation. So well done for hanging on for so long, guys. Thank you so much. I was really intending to do 45 minutes, but if any of you know me, you know that I'm a real talker and I can't do this. So the science of manifestation. Okay. So also remember that if we want to manifest our goals, we have to take action. So a lot of people teach manifestation as this completely woo practice, where it's all about thought and not about action. As a psychologist and scientist, I completely disagree with this. So my formula for manifestation is aligned thought plus aligned action equals manifestation magic. Let me deconstruct that for you as the science. You have a brain, and your brain has a cognitive bias, which means it has a set of beliefs and stories that it's programmed in, that it uses as its easy to understand way of perceiving the world. So that each thing that happens in your life, you don't need to use loads of brain power deconstructing each thing on an individual basis. It just sees patterns and it's like, okay, that's that. I can put that in that category and that's how things are. And I'll just continue to look for evidence around that because that's what makes sense to me. And so if you have a cognitive bias that is saying that you hate selling, guess what? You're not going to then have any actions that you take around selling because you believe you hate it. So then are you going to make any sales? No. Or you'll make sales, but it'll be hard and it'll be an uphill struggle. So if your cognitive bias says that you hate selling. This is why it's so important to do that work at the start of the masterclass. You need to look at your thought and see where your thought is aligned with. If you can think selling is an act of service and you truly love being of service, therefore you truly love selling in a soul aligned way, then you're going to take much more action towards your goal. You'll end up doing the other bits in the process, getting visible, talking to people about your offers, because you're passionate and it's aligned thought with aligned action. So just as with like cognitive behavioral coaching, you change the cognitions to change the behaviors, to change the outcomes. It's the exact same with manifestation, right? So when we're stripping away all of the woo from it, you shift your cognitions, your thought processes and your beliefs, and you shift your cognitive bias, which tries to support them on autopilot. Cognitive bias is mega powerful because it's 90% of the action you take actually happens on a subconscious level. And let me know if any of you guys have ever got in a car and you've driven somewhere and you get out of the car and you can hardly remember the journey. You're like, oh my God, wait, when did I get here? All right, if you've done that, that is evidence that that was your whole subconscious was driving that whole time, so that you had the energy to do the thought processes that were going on for you in the car. So if you've experienced something like that, when you've gone from one space to another and you haven't really can't remember the whole journey of getting there, or maybe you've made some dinner and you sit down to have dinner and you can't remember that whole time of cooking because you were somewhere lost in thoughts. Now, when you are lost in thoughts, those actions that you're taking come exactly from your story and your conditioning, because it's your subconscious, it's all your programming doing it. So to shift those, you need to start working on that level of that deep level of beliefs where you're changing your core beliefs. You're providing new evidence for them. You're noticing for them every time they crop up, and you're restoring them back to your new evidence. You're re-reminding them. It takes 21 days to break a habit, and it takes 90 days to build in a new one in terms of neuroscience. So let's think about the brain for a second. In your brain, you have neuron pathways. They send from one place to another. To go from this neuron pathway to this one, you have a electrical impulse that goes across, a synapse. And to make it easier and easier, the more you use that same impulse, the more you use that same thought pattern, that same thought, it insulates it with myelination. So the more insulated that thought process is, the more likely it's going to be that you're going to use it more and more, because just as with a river, it wants to go where the current goes easiest, just as electricity in your brain, it wants to go in the most insulated route because it's the easiest. It's why it feels real hard to break out of habit cycles or old thought loops. And it's why it takes a long time of consistent applied effort to shift your thinking from a scientific perspective. So it takes 21 days for the myelination in one area to melt and to not be as strong, so that your instant reflex is not, but it will also take 90 days of consistent effort for you to build this new myelination to the strength you want it to be in this other area. So it's why you need things like affirmations, like journaling, like meditation, like ways of watching your thoughts and building in this process, because really the energy that happens here in the inner realm, in the cognitive bias, in the subconscious, once you've reprogrammed that, then it becomes your like second nature that your behaviors catch up. And then it becomes absolute second nature with time and consistency, that whatever you want becomes reality, because you've taken all of the thoughts and beliefs and you believe that is fully happening. So then everything that you do in your life, it becomes all that 90% of your brain that you had fighting against that result is now on board and helping you to move towards it. Even when you're not positively looking at it, you've got all of that database going, yeah, this is what we're doing. You know, you're somebody who values this, this, and this. So, you know, when you're like, so let's say, for example, you really want a red car. You desperately want a red car and you think, I'm going to manifest a red car, okay? And so what happens is, all the time that you think about the red car, you're building in that thought loop in your brain. And then every time you look out into the street and see a red car, you're like, oh my God, red car, red car, red car. So then you become more and more noticing the red cars. Green car goes down the street, you don't look, you don't notice. Red car goes down the street, you notice, you take notice of it because it's something that you're interested in. Let's say selling is that same thing. That opportunity for selling as soon as you tune into that, you become so hyper aware, because you're like, that's what I want, the sale, I want the sale, I want the sale. So as soon as the opportunity comes up where you can sell and be of service, you're like, oh my God, there it is, the opportunity, there it is to sell. You start to become more and more aware of the people around you who may be some way leads in your system, and it becomes so much easier to convert them, because you're like completely aware of how you can sell and serve to them, because that's what your new cognitive bias is. Okay, so I was going to talk to you a little bit about money making actions, but I am running out of time, so I don't want to go over too much. I want to keep it fairly short and sweet. So I'm just going to bring it to a close right now. Catch you later, everyone. Thanks very much.